Imagine this the late 1970s, a time when the United States was still riding the high of post-Watergate scandal recovery, with politicians, celebrities, and even disco songs all filling the airwaves. But what if I told you that the FBI was about to launch one of the most daring and jaw-dropping operations ever? A scandal so big, it made even the smoothest criminal look like a rookie. Grab your popcorn, because this is Abscam. Setting the stage. Let's rewind a bit. The 1970s were turbulent. The nation was recovering from the fallout of the Watergate scandal, where President Nixon's administration was caught in the act of trying to cover up illegal activities. Public trust in the government was shaky at best, and people were wary of their elected officials. It was a time of disillusionment, with every conspiracy theory being given an air of credibility. So, what did the FBI decide to do? They saw a perfect storm for a sting operation, something that would shake the very foundations of Washington. The idea wasn't just to catch a few bad apples, it was to expose a widespread culture of corruption that had deeply infiltrated the political system. And just like that, the ABS-CAM operation was born. Sounds like the plot of a gritty political thriller, doesn't it? Well, this one was real, and the FBI wasn't playing games. Enter the FBI. The original goal of Abscam was a bit more traditional: recover stolen art and tackle organized crime. But as the operation unfolded, it transformed into something far more complex and far-reaching. The FBI, realizing the scope of political corruption, quickly shifted gears and decided to take down public officials who were exploiting their positions for personal gain. The most interesting part of this? They didn't just go after the big shots. They targeted a broad spectrum of politicians, including state senators and city officials. This wasn't just a couple of shady backdoor deals. It was a full-on attempt to expose a culture of graft in the halls of power. The operation had an unmistakable flavor of David versus Goliath, where the FBI, in an unexpected twist, became the underdog fighting to restore public trust in the system. It was an FBI project that felt like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. And explode it did, with politicians floundering in a sea of compromising situations. The mastermind. And now, for the wildest part, enter Melvin Weinberg. Imagine a man whose life's work has been, well, less than legal. A con artist by trade, Melvin had a history of working the system, swindling people, and using his craft for the wrong reasons. But in an interesting turn of events, Melvin found himself sitting across from the FBI, offering up his skills as an inside man in exchange for a better deal on his own criminal charges. It was like watching a fox volunteer to guard the henhouse. But this fox had a certain charm that the FBI couldn't ignore. Thanks to his expertise, he was able to teach them the ropes of the con game. With his connections, Melvin set the stage for the biggest political sting operation ever undertaken, creating Abdul Enterprises. Here's where things take an interesting turn. To execute this operation, the FBI created a fake company, Abdul Enterprises, run by a fictional Arab sheikh. They crafted an elaborate facade, complete with lavish yachts, expensive hotel rooms, and all the trappings of wealth and power. This was the bait, the lure, that would attract the greedy politicians. The idea was simple: offer bribes disguised as business deals in exchange for political favors. If that sounds like a plot from a Bond film, it's because it's a bit too perfect to be true. But it was, and it worked. The undercover agents posing as representatives of Abdul Enterprises were smooth, convincing, and relentless in their pursuit. The sting. And then came the unforgettable moment. The sting. The FBI started reeling in the politicians one by one with carefully planned encounters. The agents met these politicians in plush hotels, where the deals were discussed in hushed tones, far from the prying eyes of the public. The entire operation was so sophisticated that many of the officials believed they were simply engaging in routine political negotiations. But as the politicians happily accepted bribes in exchange for their political influence, the FBI was quietly collecting evidence of the corruption that had seeped into the system. Some of the meetings were caught on hidden cameras, providing damning evidence of the shady deals happening behind closed doors. The FBI had essentially set up the most intricate trap ever, and it was working to perfection. It was like fishing in a pond full of sharks. You just had to wait for the bite. Convictions and controversy. As the operation unfolded, the results were jaw-dropping. In total, 19 individuals were convicted, including several high-profile political figures. Among the casualties was Senator Harrison A. Williams of New Jersey, who was sentenced to 3 years in prison for accepting bribes in exchange for using his Senate influence. Several members of Congress, including representatives from Pennsylvania and South Carolina, were also caught in the sting. But the real twist came when the scandal hit the media. It didn't just lead to legal action, it caused a massive shakeup in the political landscape. It was the public relations nightmare of the decade, with politicians scrambling to salvage their careers. The entire operation raised a big question. How far does the corruption go? And how deep are the ties between the political elite and the underworld? The scandal seemed to suggest that the system was far more broken than anyone had imagined, and people were left wondering if any politician could truly be trusted. The aftermath. The aftermath of Abscam was nothing short of seismic. First, there were calls for major reforms in the way the FBI conducted its undercover operations. Some argued that the FBI had overstepped its bounds, using overly aggressive tactics to trap public officials. Others pointed out that while the sting operation was indeed successful in exposing corruption, it also raised questions about the ethics of entrapment. Could the FBI have simply been creating crimes that wouldn't have existed otherwise? The public was divided, with some feeling that the government had acted in the public's best interest, and others feeling that the FBI's methods were questionable. On the political side, Abscam had long-term effects. The scandal caused a wave of political reform and made lawmakers more cautious about how they conducted their business. Abscam in popular culture. It's no surprise that such a scandal would be ripe for the big screen. Abscam's influence in popular culture was far-reaching, and the most notable example came with the 2013 film American Hustle. This Hollywood blockbuster, which earned 10 Academy Award nominations, fictionalized the story of Abscam, blending elements of comedy, drama, and heist filmmaking. Christian Bale's performance as a slick con man was an instant hit, and the movie's sharp wit and dark humor kept audiences hooked. Abscam wasn't just a scandal, it became a cultural touchstone, referenced in movies, songs, and TV shows for years to come. It was the kind of scandal that couldn't be confined to the past, it lived on in the public consciousness. Lessons learned. Abscam left us with more than just courtroom drama and media frenzy. It provided some key lessons that are still relevant today. The biggest lesson? Power corrupts, and unchecked power can lead to widespread abuse. When people in power believe they can get away with anything, the temptation to indulge in corruption becomes overwhelming. But here's the real kicker. The FBI, despite its controversial methods, reminded us that accountability is key. Even the highest-ranking officials aren't immune from scrutiny. On a deeper level, Abscam also raised important questions about the ethics of law enforcement tactics. While the operation was undeniably successful, it sparked debates about the boundaries of justice. And that's the scoop on Abscam. If you enjoyed the ride, smash that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories. Don't miss out, hit the bell, and stay tuned for the next big one. Catch you in the next video.